So a couple of things that we did introduce, and we've been starting to put some of these. This is our help site, and there's a release notes section on a help site for most of our add-ons. We don't do a good job of keeping them up to date. We do plan on doing that. So I did, even this, I have to make this 11.5.6, but this kind of talks about the few things that we did implement last week. Number one was the ability to prepend files in front of the generated exact forms plus documents. So we always allowed you for a long time, a couple of years, I guess, the ability to append files. So if you wanted to generate a document and then put another PDF at the bottom of that generated document, we allowed you to do that. We never allowed you to put something up ahead of that generated document. So that was part of this new release. I'm going to show that. We also, for those of you who are saving documents into Amazon S3, we added a new parameter called Amazon S, well, it's really called S3 key value. When we save documents to S3, we usually default the value inside of Exact Forms Plus, and we're giving you the ability to do that on your own and control it on your own. But if you don't pass this in, it's still going to react like it did in the past. So, but I'll show that as a quick demo. We also fixed an issue that one of the releases that Quickbase put out. It happens from time to time when they put out a release, it does impact some of the way our processing works. So people who were maybe had a logo file that was in an app that was open to everyone on the internet, and you had that inside of the header of one of your Exact Forms Plus documents. We were getting some errors, 400 bad requests, because even though the file was open to everyone on the internet, and even the file attachment field might have been checked to allow open access, we're still using your user token when we connect to the database. So a change that was recently made didn't like that we were making a call to download a file with using a user token when everybody had access to it. So we had to make a quick change to stop making that call with a user token if the file is available to everyone on the internet. So it was something that we weren't really expecting, so we had to scramble around to fix that. And I'll show you one other thing we did on subtables for images and the way we handle images. And I'll do a quick demo on that in our JuiceSign demo application, just to show you what I mean. But it's hard to explain, so I'll actually show it myself. So I'm going to just jump into this is an app in my Builder program that I do a lot of demos with. And I'm going to show you the prepend and append now. So here I have a file that I want to put in front of the document that I'm generated. So it's just a price list, but so I want to generate a document using Exact Forms Plus, but I want this to be the first page instead of the Exact Forms Plus generated document to be the first page. And I'm also going to put a credit card authorization form at the end. So I'm basically going to sandwich our Exact Forms Plus document between two separate static PDFs. Again, one that has our pricing information and one that has an authorizations form. So to do that, I'm going to add two new parameters. I have them commented out here, but pre-files, well, add files isn't new, but I'm going to use that in here, but pre-files is new. And it works just like add files does. So you put the field ID of the file attachment field, and if you had multiple, you can do 73, and you can do 76, you can do 79. But for now, we're just going to do one file ahead of the generated document, and we're going to do one file at the end of the document. So those two URL parameters in conjunction, we're going to take this file, put it before the document, this one after. So I'm going to click the button to generate a document. So we should see the price list first when this comes back. Here we go. So here's the price list first. Here's the proposal document that Exact Forms Plus generated. And then here is the credit card authorizations form. So again, I didn't generate any of these documents because this was a static document and this was a static document. And Exact Forms Plus grabbed the template and created this document and just basically prefixed and appended these documents together. So that's the demo on pre-files. Any questions on pre-files?
We actually did get one. Tasha would like to see it again. So is there any chance you could just run through that one more time and maybe go through the parameters again?
Sure. Here's the pre-document. So it's a one-page pricing document. It's a PDF, and it has to be a PDF.
Yep.
I'll jump into the coding. So really, it's just a new parameter, and these parameters are all also found on our help site under formula URL parameters. You'll see that under this section here, here's add files, and here's pre-files, and basically it just references everything that's up here, but it just says it's going to put it ahead of time, ahead of the documents. Here's like a little snippet of what that parameter looks like, but I'll go back into the app itself. So again, pre-files, 73 is a file attachment field, add files, 74 is the other file attachment field. And it just simply sandwiches the exact forms plus generated document.
And now, Keith, that of course can be another exact forms plus document, right? As long as it's PDF.
Yeah, so you can generate an exact forms plus document. That's a good question. So I can click this button and generate this standard. This is just a, let's say this didn't have pre-files and add files. It was just a regular document that was generated by Exact Forms Plus. I can fire Exact Forms Plus batch processor when this EFP date changes to create another document and take the one that I just created and put it either at the beginning or at the end. So yeah, you can use a little bit of automation to create a generated document and then generate another document and put the previously generated document either ahead of it or behind or at the end of it.
Right. Or even from other tables based off of what I was just looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. So you can certainly look at the help site again and get a little bit more detail about the flexibility that we have. So you can reference another table. In this case, that would be the DB ID of the table, the record ID that you want to grab the file from, and the file attachment field ID that the file lives in. And you can also grab files from Amazon S3. So that's what this shows here. It says, go to S3 and grab the key value. You grab the file that has this key value in your bucket. So that's the different flexibility that you have with add files and pre-files. Okay. So one of the other changes that we had was the Euro. The API right now, the XML API, which is what we use, does not allow us to show this nice Euro symbol. When the data comes back to us, if you had put this as a symbol, so if you use the Alt 0128 keystrokes to generate that Euro symbol, the XML API does not bring that back with the data that comes back. So if some people did want to use the Euro symbol in some of their documents, they weren't able to do that with our Exact Forms Plus. So what we did was we created a function, and this is what the function looks like. So this is my document template. We have very few functions in the templates themselves. We like to keep all of the business logic in Quickbase, but there's sometimes where we actually do build some functionality into the template. So this is basically saying, this is a currency function. I want to use the Euro symbol, and I want you to put the Euro symbol in front of field 69. So here's field 69 without the euros, without putting any of this formula around it. But here, because when I generate the document, this is not going to show the symbol that I want it to show. But when I do this, and I say, hey, I want to force the Euro symbol to be put ahead of that, then this is the function I'm going to use. And there is a quick question by Laura here. Does the symbol come from the word symbols insertion area? Yeah, you can do that, or you can do the Alt 0128. So you can do either one. So I think that you could probably do an insert. I'm sure there's a symbols here somewhere. I haven't done that in a while, but yes, Laura, you could use that. You could use that concept to put the symbol in there. But basically what I'm going to do here is actually I already generated this document, but I'll generate it again anyway. So now that template, you're going to see both flavors here. You're going to see the field 69 without the formula. So as you can see, we weren't able to put the Euro symbol in front of it, but now using that formula or function, it'll actually prefix the currency with, and I just happen to choose the formatting a little differently here. So But if you have the standard formatting, it'll come out right. But so that's one way now we can use the formula symbols. Now, I'm sure a question is going to come up. Well, how about on subtables? We don't have this available on subtables yet. That is something that we do plan on doing within the next month or so. But right now it's only in the master section of the data. So if I had an invoice and invoice items, you can only really show the invoice itself if there was a summary field on the invoice with that formula. But we do plan on doing that in subtables as well. To have mixed currency symbol option, that is a question, I'm sorry, you would have to have two different templates. Yes and no. I mean, you can put that formula around, like I could have US dollars in here as well as euros. Like I think that template actually shows that. So if I look in here, I'm able to produce, here's a US dollar currency field. So that field 32, I just know that from the template, is the total field in US dollars. And here is that same field in euros. So you can mix the currencies in the templates. All right.
Thank you.
So I'm going to show you quickly the S3 key value. So again, in the past, if you are storing documents generated from Exact Fonts Plus into Amazon S3, and quickly just to show you some of the parameters for that. This is the new parameter that we just introduced, and it's called S3 key value. But I have it commented out right now because I want to show you how we typically save the file when you did use that. This is the S3 key value that we would use. So when you generate this document, if you're not passing in the new parameter, we would save the document with this as the key. And some of our customers said, well, they want a little bit more control over that key value. Can we pass in the key? So now, instead, if you do want to control what the key value is, and I'm going to uncomment this out. This is S3 key value, and I'm going to use project test, and I'm going to append the record ID to it. That's how I want to save my file. So now, when I click that button, save it into S3, you're going to see a different key value. So instead of seeing this key value with the DB ID of the table, we're going to see it, no DB ID of the table. We're going to see no underscores because I didn't want underscores this time. Close this. So there you see, you can control the S3 key value now. So that's for those of you who want to save your files outside of file attachment fields and into Amazon S3. All right. So one more piece of functionality that is not fully released yet. It is live technically for those of you guys who want to be a little brave and try this. Just be careful. Just if you mess up some of the settings in the subtables, you might cause more havoc than you really want to. But we're starting to handle summary reports in Exact Fonts Plus. So what does that mean? Well, in this case, I have an invoice and I have line items. So when I generate the invoice, I might not want all of these line items to show up. Instead, I might just want a summary, something like this. So here's a summary report that I created that basically summed up and grouped by the type or the category. So really, it's the product category that we have here. So instead of showing this long list of items, I want to just show this. So we just introduce this, which is we're working on our ERP configurator to make it a lot easier to do that. That's why I kind of said it's only for the brave at heart that might want to attempt this. But this is the document that gets generated with all of the detail. So if I didn't want to include all of that detail, I included a summary report on the next page. So I could have, instead of doing this, I could have just had it look like this. So in essence, it's really just getting rid of all of these line items here. But you're going to have full control, again, of colorization, all of the other formatting options that we offer for each column, even the subtotaling and so on. So this is something that we're going to get a little bit more advanced in the next month or two. But we want to make sure our EFP configurator can make it easier for you guys to handle this, because right now it's not that simple to handle this. And I'm going to show you how we do it. If I go to my document subtables. One of the things you'll notice here, I'm going to blow this up a little bit more. Right here, we're now using the query ID of the summary report. So normally, if you looked at the settings field on this table, I'm going to show a couple other subtable configurations. This is typically how we query the data when we're going to grab data from a specific table, and we're basically going to query it this way. And this is Quickbase do query language. So we basically say, oh, get me all of the records where the record ID is equal to field 19. The difference here with summary reports is you're going to be passing in a QID. But right now, we don't have any way for our EFP configurator to allow you to do that. So what we're going to be doing now, you're going to see some changes to the configurator probably within the next month or two, that instead of filtering criteria looking like this, it's going to prefix it and say, do you want to do a detail report or do you want to do a summary report? And then based on that selection, we'll either show a list of summary reports that you already have, or we'll show our querying capability. But one other change we're going to make to the configurator is, those of you who might have been on our office hours last week, you might have seen us introduce what we're calling our query builder. So here's our query builder application. And this is a utility that we just put together, and we're going to be rolling this out in another month or so as well, that actually will let you use some very similar look and feel to Quickbase report filtering, but this is actually going to generate a query. So in this case, you can see that I can choose, I can build out my query very intuitively, just like Quickbase reporting features give you, and you can see that it actually builds out the query on the bottom. So, and it's going to have the same type of capabilities where you can continue to add more information, more parameters. You can do ORs as well. You can move things around, and basically it's going to give you the ability to build out that query. So we're going to be putting this query builder right into the filtering query here. So you won't have this look and feel anymore, but you'll have even more capabilities because you'll be able to do ands and ors, where right now you can only do ands in your filters with ExactForms Plus. So these are some of the things that we're going to be coming around with within a month or two to help you, number one, do summary reports, number two, do better filtering, and number three, we're actually making some advanced changes to some of our types that we have available to everyone. So right now, the field types you have available to you, you don't see barcode in here. Well, we're going to introduce that as well. So you're going to be able to choose a barcode type, and then you'll go into advanced settings if you choose barcode type, and you'll see a drop down of all of the available barcode types that we offer in ExactForms Plus. So you'll be able to generate barcodes at a subtable level. You can do that right now at a master section level in our ExactForms Plus templates, but you can't do it in subtables. You'll be able to do that as well. And one other thing was we're gonna end up replacing this with rich text. Before Quickbase came out with the fields rich text and formula rich text, they were really just formula text fields with an HTML checkbox turned on. That's why we used the term HTML text. But we're going to change this to kind of correlate better to how Quickbase names their field types. So you'll see that as rich text in the future. It's not going to really change anything in the back end. It's still going to look the same and run the same, but just visually, when you hit this drop down, you'll see rich text instead.
Hey, Keith, I've gotten the question recently, what does float do?
It's a good question. Float is when you have numeric fields that have decimals and you want to show the decimals. So not currency fields. Maybe you just have just a formula numeric or a numeric field and you want to show the decimals.
Gallons.
The downs. I don't call it that, but decimals. Okay.
Well, you have a gallons field.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. So it really helps you show those, because a lot of times you might have your 1.5 whatever, or 250 and a half of something. So if you want to show that decimal, sometimes it doesn't show up for a standard numeric field. So if that happens, if you come in here and you change the type to be float and you run exact fonts plus again, it'll generate that numeric value and you'll see the decimal points. So if you ever have the case where you know that there's decimal points showing up in Quickbase, but they're not showing up in exact fonts plus, come here and check the field type. And if it's not set to float, set it to float and try it again, and more than likely you'll see the decimals. It's a good question.
I actually do have another question, somewhat on the topic. In the filter criteria, you mentioned that you'd be able to do detail reports in the new subtables. Can you do other reports as well with QID?
No, you're not going to be able to do charts.
What about table reports?
No table reports. You're just going to use QID for summary reports. So if your details are really, you're going to build out that filtering criteria. I mean, we will look into allowing you to choose that, but the problem with that is there's always a lot of fields selected in, let's say you list all report. You might have, 100 fields listed in your list all report. So we don't really want to, it's not really going to make sense to generate an exact fonts plus document with that many fields. So I know the filtering is the important part because you want to kind of mimic the filtering of the report. Right. So we might think about how we can use a QID for a detailed report and then give you the ability to filter out the fields in the subtable field section. We will look at that though.
I think you can, with our query builder, actually import a report and it will give you the query back. Too bad Dylan's not here to show it off.
Yeah,
but
you can.
Top right corner, I believe there's an import button.
Yep, there is. And I'm not sure what it does. Okay.
So if you put in 1, for example, for list all, it should bring back list all. Well, I guess list all doesn't have a filter. But if you went and saw reports in the employees table.
All right.
I think it would be an employee. Yep. And if you did names, all right, because I think this is what Dylan showed off last week. So if you put in QID 5, I believe it should know to take in that report. So maybe we could mimic something like that. There you go.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
I'm sure once we introduce that query builder into Exact Fonts Plus, I'm sure we can include that feature set so you can do exactly that. Maybe we'll make it look a little different, but so you can rebuild the filter report.
I think a lot of clients would find that very helpful. And Keith, by the way, how do you get Query Builder?
Good question, Matt. Query Builder is a utility that we're offering to our customers who subscribe to at least 2 add-ons with us, or they have a monthly subscription rate of $110 or more. So we're not charging for Query Builder, so it's not an additional charge, but we're offering it as a utility that again, it's a no-charge utility as long as you have a certain level of subscription with us, which I would say 80 to 90% of our customers are probably at that level. So this is just a value-added utility that we're going to introduce, and we don't have a wizard to set this up yet. We're working on that, but this is something, again, the next month or two, we have a lot of things coming out, and this is going to be one of them. So that will be, you can always reach out to support. You can reach out to Matt, and we'll let you know, how you can implement this in your application.
Thanks.
All right, I think I hit pretty much everything I wanted to review.
Well, I want to kind of open it up. I know we might not get any questions here, but does anyone have any questions regarding Exact Forms Plus and any of the recent changes? It might not have to be one of the ones that Keith just showed, but anything regarding Exact Forms Plus since we're on the topic.
while you're asking that question, let me just, there was one other change that I wanted to show. So let me, this is our juice sign management application, and I kind of wanted to quickly show one other change for Exact Forms Plus. That's an interesting one. Let's see here. This is what we call a certificate of agreement. And you can see that with our juice sign add-on, you're going to be able to have documents signed off right within Quickbase. And if you choose to adopt a signature from our juice sign add-on, or you want to draw one, we want to show that in our certificate of agreement so that you have that as a record, so that you do know that it was signed and what the signature looked like. But Exact Forms Plus couldn't support when you have a HTML value in one column and you have an image value. So these are both fonts, believe it or not. But I'm going to go to one where we had somebody actually draw the signature. I just want to find one of those quickly.
Just while Keith's doing that, I just want to double check. Any questions regarding any add-ons? Do not be shy. I know no one's asked a question yet in this meeting, but we are more than happy to answer them. You know, whether it's support related or just a feature question.
See, here's one where the actual we drew the signature as opposed to adopting the signature. So let's take a look. So again, let me blow this up a little bit. So here's HTML value. So that's really a font in a formula rich text field. But actually, here's an image. So now in this column, you can include images as well as HTML. So if you show multiple records in a subtable, and in this column you define it as an image, but you maybe have a formula in there that says, well, if there is no image, then use this font. You can do that now in Exact Forms Plus, just by making sure you still include it as an image type in the field type for subtables, but have that formula say if the image doesn't exist, then use some text. Maybe you want to bold the text, or maybe you want to use a font family, something like this. So that's available now in Exact Forms Plus as well.
So Keith, one question that I actually had on a call this morning, I had a client who's interested in Exact Forms Plus, and they wanted to know if they could use fields from a related table. So the fields were not on the master table, but they were related. So this is kind of a general Quickbase question. Let's say you had an employees table and there was tasks. I guess, can you show how you'd bring down in like a lookup field, fields from an employees table or any, master table to a child table? I know that might seem simple, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's just standard, I guess, lookup value. So if I have estimates to line items.
They just wanted to know if they were to generate it from line items, how they would get the estimate fields down.
Right. So that's really Quickbase relationship, let's say, modifications that you would have to do. So if you go into your relationships, I have a relationship between estimates and line items. So you can see that I don't have the customer name as a physical field on the items table, but I still wanted it down there. So I pulled it down because I went into the relationship between estimates and line items, and I said, I want to add a lookup field, and I added customer name. Now, if I wanted to add something else, maybe I want to add the, what do we want to add? Well, the invoice number. Let's say we want the invoice number down at the line item level as well. So now if I went back to my items table, I'll also see the invoice number there. So I pull up any one of these. On the bottom, I could see the invoice number there. So this is a field that now it's available on the line items table. So if you didn't want to generate a document from this line item, you can now include fields that were really live on the estimates table, because you don't want to duplicate like data like that. You don't want to have a customer name on your line items table, because that really originates from the estimates table, and you don't want to, it's just kind of not something you want to do from a data perspective.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, every once in a while we'll get questions regarding subtables as well. People will try to put a line items table and sort of pseudo use estimates to make that happen.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you've seen that before.
Yeah.
I've done that before. In my lesson learned from me.
And next week, we're going to be going over some ways you could automate processes with Exact Forms Plus and Courier. So make sure to tune in next week, same time, Wednesday at 2 p.m. But thank you guys all for joining. Keith, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you guys next week.